After I got pregnant, my husband hired a 20-year-old live-in nanny to take care of my daily life. The nanny cooked during the day, but at night she wore low-cut pajamas and live-streamed dancing, making so much noise that I couldn't sleep, which destabilized the pregnancy and I lost the baby. She felt very guilty, tearfully looking at my husband every day, saying how wrong she was. But once he left for work, she continued her live stream as usual. I returned home early from a business trip, and as soon as I opened the door, I saw the nanny wearing my low-cut lace nightgown, her voice soft and seductive. "Professor Liam, I'm very sorry. If you don't mind, I wouldn't mind helping you heal the pain of losing your child." From behind, Lily's figure was curvy and full, almost lunging toward my husband. My husband turned his face away and casually tossed her a piece of clothing. "Put this on. My wife just went on a business trip and will be back soon." Without changing his expression, he returned to the study. Lily stomped her foot in frustration and went back to her room. I am very satisfied with my husband's condition. Originally, I was on a business trip out of town today, but I kept feeling uneasy about something, so I took leave and came back early. Sure enough, just as I expected. Lily is the niece of a distant relative from my mother-in-law's side. She just graduated from college and couldn't find a job. When she heard I needed to hire a nanny after my miscarriage, my mother-in-law quickly called over. I was also puzzled. My mother-in-law has lived in the countryside for years, and no matter how many times my husband and I invited her, she never came. Now that she finally made a request, we agreed. But I don't want to tolerate it anymore. Streaming live in the middle of the night, the noise is bad enough, and now she openly tries to steal my husband. I immediately called my mother-in-law and explained the whole situation clearly. My mother-in-law was stunned for 2 seconds, then laughed it off. "Impossible, impossible. Lily isn't that kind of person, I've watched her grow up. You're pregnant, too worried. There's someone at home, so I'm at ease." Before I could say more, my mother-in-law hurried off to work in the fields and hung up the phone. As the call ended, I clearly heard 2 cold laughs. I pushed open the door and walked in, calling out, "Honey, I'm home." My husband immediately came out to greet me. My husband Liam is an adjunct professor at a university, gentle, refined, and very patient, but also a man of strong principles. His face looked a bit sour, but the moment he saw me, he suddenly smiled. "Wife, you're back." Lily came out at that moment too. She had changed clothes but still wore a fresh, almost no makeup look. She affectionately linked her arm with mine. "Eleanor, you're back. Liam and I have missed you so much." Lily rubbed against me, her hand unconsciously reaching for my bag. I love shopping, and whenever I go somewhere, I always buy some cosmetics and clothes. Before, when I brought things home, I would let her pick a few items from what I brought back. Now, it has actually become a habit. However, I was in a hurry coming back today and didn't buy anything, only brought a bag of dirty clothes. She was a bit displeased but didn't say anything. "Lily, have you cooked?" Lily pouted. "Eleanor, you just got back today, let's go out to eat together." At that moment, I suddenly understood why I always felt so uncomfortable chatting with her. Although she worked as a nanny in my home, because of my husband's connection, I had always treated her like my own sister. "Lily, you came to this house to be a nanny, to take care of my clothes, meals, and living. I had made it very clear." She was a little embarrassed and angry, but when she looked up and saw my husband, tears suddenly welled up in her eyes, on the verge of falling, looking very pitiful. "Eleanor, I'm sorry, I thought you wouldn't be coming back today. Liam said it would be easy to deal with just the 2 of them, so before I could finish, my husband's voice cut in. "All right, if you're going to cook, then cook. I wasn't here to be a guest anyway." Liam is usually gentle and soft-spoken, but when he gets angry, he can be quite intimidating. He put his arm around my shoulder, took what I was holding, and led me back to the bedroom. After closing the door, he suddenly held me and told me everything that had just happened in detail. "Honey, you know I love you the most, But you also know how mom is, once she makes up her mind, it's final. She was already a bit unhappy with you, and I was just trying to ease the tension between you two. The eldest grandson we've been waiting for so long, and I'm stuck in the middle, it's hard for me too. My mother-in-law really never liked me. She thought I was a pampered girl who had never lifted a finger, and that I definitely wouldn't be able to take good care of Liam. The first time Liam and I went home to meet his parents, his mother had already gone out to work in the fields early in the morning. She only came back around dusk, said a few words to me, and then went off to sleep. The next day, it was still Liam who took me to the fields to find her. We chatted for a little while. After we came back, my genuine leather Mary Jane shoes were completely ruined. A few days ago, I told my mother-in-law about my pregnancy. She finally smiled brightly and said a few words to me. Now, the baby was lost because of my miscarriage. These past couple of days, my husband has been busy preparing materials for his classes. After dinner, he went back to work. Lily and I didn't have much to talk about either, so we went back to the bedroom early to rest. There was also a rocking chair in the room, carefully prepared by my husband for the child who hadn't been born yet. Every time I saw it, I felt so sorry for him. He was clearly someone who loved children so much. Just as my mood was starting to recover, I opened my phone and saw a live stream recommended by the video app. At the same time, the noise from the next room was turned up to the max, making it feel like the whole house was about to collapse. I used a secondary account to open Lily's live stream. She was dancing energetically. She had a great figure, and paired with that innocent-looking face, it was simply stunning. The first time I saw her, I couldn't help but be amazed. After finishing her dance, she started chatting with the viewers. I've been feeling down these past couple of days, don't know why. The top supporter immediately replied, "Come to my place and see me." The words were flirtatious, making anyone's face flush and heart race. Just as I was about to exit, I suddenly heard a voice say, "Aren't I right here in your house?" Lily touched her chest and laughed. I abruptly stopped moving to leave and continued listening to their conversation. I've spent so many days with my brother, and he even gave me a limited edition necklace. Her chest was pounding wildly. Necklace, my eyes unconsciously shifted to stare at the necklace on the bedside table. That was the one my husband gave me for my birthday last month. But Lily didn't continue on that topic, she switched to something else. Someone asked about the same style. These are my limited edition earrings, from a private Italian brand, and there are no more like them. I suddenly felt relieved because those earrings were mine. It seemed I was just overthinking. Lily was always vain, and now she was even talking nonsense. I had just put down my phone when a message from my husband came through, telling me to use my phone less and remember to go to bed early. I sweetly replied with an okay emoji. I wasn't sleeping anyway, couldn't sleep, actually, so I thought I might as well wait for my husband to come home. I heard the sound of a lock being opened outside, so I put on my shoes and ran out. When I got outside, I saw Lily was there too. She had just finished her live stream. Her makeup was still on, and she was wearing a tight pencil skirt, barefoot on the floor. "Liam, you're back," she said. Liam just gave a grunt in response and then walked straight toward me. Once inside, I opened my husband's phone. I saw a page still open, and the profile picture was exactly the same as the top donor in Lily's livestream chat. The avatar was a landscape photo, obviously a casual snapshot. But the IP address seemed different. Curiosity made me thoroughly check Liam's phone inside and out. Except for that one page, there was nothing unusual. I also went through that app. Apart from that profile picture, everything else looked like it had just been registered. I temporarily felt relieved. Early in the morning, Lily knocked on the bedroom door. Always suspicious in my heart, I got up and followed my husband to open the door. Just as I expected. Lily was wearing a bath towel and a hair-drying cap, her good figure fully on display, tears in her eyes. "Liam, can you help me check the bathroom? The water is leaking." Hearing this, Liam's expression grew especially tense. Without saying a word, he went to the bathroom. I was about to follow him when Lily stopped me. That's a man's job. Let's just wait here. She blocked me inside the room, and I felt a bit annoyed, so I just walked out. The moment I brushed against her arm, Lily suddenly changed her tone. You lost the baby in your belly, it must be really hard for you, right? I could clearly see the hostility in her eyes. I heard it was because you didn't listen to Auntie and insisted on going to work, and then you slipped by the roadside. Thinking of the unborn child, my heart clenched painfully. Lily suddenly blinked her big eyes and leaned closer. Eleanor, can you still have children? Is your body still able to carry a healthy baby? I don't know why, but Lily suddenly seemed like a different person. Although she had always been chatty in front of her husband before, I never expected her to be like this today, directly attacking me. For a moment, I was at a loss for words. Eleanor, how about I help you? I remember Liam really likes kids. Help me with what? Just then, Liam suddenly appeared and asked what we were talking about. Lily playfully winked. Nothing. I asked my husband where he had been. He said, nothing much, the bathroom was leaking. I thought since you're still recovering, I was worried the water might seep under the floor and cause dampness in the house. I didn't think much of it. Liam and I went to work, one after the other. At the office, a male colleague next to me was watching Lily's live stream. Another colleague asked, this woman is really beautiful, you'd never guess she's a mom. A mom? I exclaimed, and my colleagues were stunned. Lily a mom? How come I didn't know? Wasn't she supposed to have come back right after graduating from college? A colleague explained to me, I heard that woman got pregnant before marriage and already has a child. It was said by someone from their village in the comment section. I frowned, completely unable to understand what my colleague meant. The whole day passed in a daze. My mother-in-law called me, asking me to take some time off and go home to the countryside for a few days. Since it was so rare for her to call, I didn't want to disappoint her. At the end of the call, she said to bring Lily along with us. After work, I suddenly didn't want to go home, I just wanted to take a walk. So many things have happened in the past few days that I haven't had time to carefully think through the cause and effect. The breeze cleared my mind quite a bit. Liam and I were college classmates and were basically together the whole time. How could I not trust him? I guess I was just overthinking. A familiar figure passed by in front of me, it looked like Lily, and she was holding the hand of a little girl. It seems what my colleague said was true. But why did no one tell me from the start? I stepped forward, a car drove past me, and when I looked up again, there was no sign of anyone. On the way home, my mind was heavy with thoughts. I opened the door, Lily was home, dressed differently from that person. I must have been mistaken. Just as I was about to take a shower, someone started banging loudly on the door. Come out, is there anyone alive? Get out here. When I opened the door, a burly man stood there with his hands on his hips. Your water pipe is leaking, don't you know how to fix it? The water is dripping into my house. The man's eyes darted around, finally settling on Lily. I hurriedly apologized and promised to compensate him for all the damages. But the other party kept babbling on, his eyes fixed on the woman beside me. When Liam came home from work and saw the scene, he immediately shielded me behind him. He was carrying a bag, the clothes I had sent for dry cleaning, which I asked him to pick up on his way home from work. The man leered at Lily. Liam noticed and naturally handed the clothes from the bag to Lily. Lily took them casually, even giving me a provocative glance as she put them on. Back in the room, my husband kept comforting me, trying to explain. I felt suffocated inside and didn't want to talk to him. After that night, Lily didn't live stream again. I told my husband about going to his hometown. Liam held me, hesitating, maybe we shouldn't go. I'm afraid you'll get hurt. I repeatedly assured him it was fine, that I could go. But Liam's persistent objections made me a bit suspicious. I had to make a trip to his hometown. Not just to clear the doubts in my heart, but also because of Lily. I couldn't allow another uncertain factor that might destroy my family to exist. In the car, Lily quietly listened to music with her headphones on. Only my husband kept sighing and drinking water non-stop. I asked him what was wrong. He just casually brushed me off, saying he was fine, just hadn't rested well and was a bit tense. When we arrived home, my mother-in-law warmly came out to greet us. Hot dishes and soup were fully prepared inside. Suddenly, I felt a bit touched. My mother-in-law stepped forward, leaving Lily, who was getting ready to pack her bags to go home, to eat. After Lily agreed, my mother-in-law casually linked arms with Liam and Lily as they went inside. From behind, they looked exactly like a family. I crossed my arms, feeling quite displeased, standing still without a word and not moving forward. Liam sensed something was wrong and quickly stopped, coming over to coax me inside. My mother-in-law's expression was a bit off. During the meal, she kept piling meat onto Liam's plate and naturally handed Lily a chicken leg. As for me, I felt like an outsider. My mother-in-law asked about my well-being but didn't mention that I was still in recovery. After the meal, she asked Liam to take Lily home. I was unhappy about it but had no choice. Rather than having Lily stay here overnight, it was better to spend some time and send her home. My mother-in-law and I stood under the eaves, watching them leave. These two have been childhood sweethearts since they were little. I've watched Lily grow up, she said. I didn't understand what she meant by that. Back inside, I sat with my mother-in-law watching TV. I took out the nutritional supplements I had bought for her. She pursed her lips, I'm just a bunch of old bones, why bother taking these? No blessings left for me. I was about to offer some comfort. Oh, at your age, and you don't even have a grandchild. Eleanor. Your health has recovered, right? It's time to have a child, or else in the end, you'll have nothing. I forced myself to hide the pain inside. Mom, nowadays there are so many dink families. If it really doesn't work out, we can just be a dink family, it's not so bad. My mother-in-law let out a cold laugh, sunflower seed shells still at the corner of her mouth. Suddenly, she leaned in cautiously and said, if it really doesn't work, just borrow a belly from someone else. Then you can raise the child yourself. I was deeply shocked, finding it hard to understand how my mother-in-law, such a traditional person, could have such an open mind. I returned to my husband's room, tears welling up in the corners of my eyes. He hadn't come back yet, and as I thought about it, I actually fell asleep. The next morning, I was pulled up early by my mother-in-law to cook, saying that the villagers were coming to visit and wanted to see me, the new daughter-in-law who had been married for 7 years but never met them. My eyes barely open, my mother-in-law threw countless dishes beside me, telling me to pick them up and wash them clean. Everyone stood in front of me, speaking in the dialect I couldn't understand. I kept my head down and focused on the work. Lily also came. As soon as she arrived, everyone gathered around her. I didn't know what they were saying, but the group was all smiles and laughter. Liam and I slept in separate beds. I slept on the first floor, next to my mother-in-law. Liam was upstairs, in the room farthest from the living room, probably still asleep. By chance, I noticed the little girl next to Lily. The little girl was also looking around, as if searching for something. Liam came out from behind the door, rubbing his sleepy eyes, still dazed. The little girl saw him, ran over excitedly, and shouted, "Daddy." The surroundings fell silent. Lily stood among the crowd, watching it all. Only Grandma rushed over to grab the little girl and explain to me, "Kids, they don't mean it. She's Lily's eldest sister's child, named Claire, and she often comes to play here." Grandma pointed at me and said, "This is your uncle's wife, you should call her Aunt." Claire looked me over, her face full of innocence. "Hello, Aunt." I smiled. After finally getting a moment to rest, Lily suddenly walked over. "Eleanor, you actually suit dressing like this. I knew what she meant. I had casually tied my hair up, wearing a worn-out apron, with countless oil stains and smudges on my clothes. It was hard to pretend I didn't notice. In the distance, Claire and Liam were crouched on the ground playing marbles. They seemed to get along pretty well, Lily said out of the blue. By the way, the other day I took Claire out to play and ran into you, but you looked so lost and distracted that I didn't say hi. A sudden ringing echoed in my mind. I didn't know why, but my heart started pounding nervously and excitedly. Suddenly, Claire ran over and threw herself into Lily's arms without saying a word. Liam came over and put his arm around my shoulder without hesitation. Lily, oblivious to the tension, spoke up, "Liam loves kids so much, you should hurry up and have one." That sentence stabbed at my heart. But I had no reason to hold back anymore. How could anyone just have a child so casually? These days, having a baby is so easy, wouldn't everyone be like old hens by now? By the way, I heard from the villagers that you look like someone who's good at having children. Lily choked on my words and was speechless for a long time. The next day, when I came out of my room, I found Lily there too. She was holding Claire in her arms, dressed in casual home clothes. My mother-in-law quickly came out to explain, it was too late yesterday, so I didn't let them leave. "Oh, and the neighbor's kid next door will take you out for a walk." The neighbor's kid was a female college student named Evelyn, wearing glasses and silent as a mouse. The neighbor's attitude toward me was lukewarm at best, more like indifferent than anything else. But neighbors are neighbors, there's no need to expect them to be overly friendly. When we reached the village chief's house, he suddenly waved me over. After I walked up, the village chief's wife came out, also wearing an indifferent expression. "It just doesn't look like someone who's easy to raise. I heard you even lost a child?" I nodded, clutching the corner of my clothes. The village chief cut in, "A woman's duty is to carry on the family line. If you can't give birth to a son, better to let someone else have the chance." I didn't catch the last thing he said. Evelyn pulled me along. Every family we visited after that had the same reaction. First, they said my health was poor and I had lost a child. Now, 7 years later, my belly still shows no sign of life. They suggested I should give way to others, saying I was taking up someone else's place. I was in a bad mood and planned to go home. Evelyn stopped me, looking left and right, as if checking for onlookers. Some truths can't be seen with the eyes. What you think is the truth might just be what you think. I kept pondering her words. At dinner, Claire was fussing to watch cartoons. Everyone at the table, except me, was trying to soothe her. Lily took on the authoritative tone of a mother, scolding, while Grandma interrupted to soothe the child. Liam played the father role gently, coaxing the child to eat with soft words. Seeing this, I had a suspicion in my heart. I brought Claire over and used the child-soothing techniques I learned from a client to get her to eat. She obediently finished her meal. Grandma beamed with joy. "Eleanor really knows what she's doing. Look, the two of them get along like mother and daughter." After the meal, I asked Evelyn to send Liam and Claire's hair samples for DNA testing. After spending many days in the countryside, my thoughts gradually calmed down. Every day I locked myself in the room, telling others I was working. From morning till night, I was only seen during meal times. Grandma and Liam always seemed hesitant to speak, but seeing my stern expression, they would fall silent again. Liam's professorship was entirely arranged by me, and it was through my connections that he got in. Although Liam certainly has his own merits, without my matchmaking, how could this good opportunity have fallen into his hands? My mother-in-law understood this well, so she tried not to live with us. On the night before she was about to leave, she called me over and asked me to offer incense to my late father-in-law. "We've been married for 7 years, and you still don't have children. This is not only unfair to me but also to your deceased father-in-law." I finally looked up and saw Lily standing nearby. Lily is someone I've known since she was little, our families are well acquainted. "So, let little Lily have a baby for me, and then you can raise it." These absurd words were spoken as if they were a charity. I stood up and threw away the incense in my hand. Lily looked at me and said, "Eleanor, I truly like Liam. I am willing to have his children, and I won't ask for anything in return." I grabbed her collar and slapped her twice across the face. The pent-up emotions of the past few days exploded at that moment. My mother-in-law hurried over to stop me, saying, "You barren woman, you have no right to complain about not having children. If this were ancient times, I would have already made Liam divorce you." I didn't hold back and started arguing with my mother-in-law. Claire ran in at that moment, frightened by the adults shouting, and went searching for Lily in the messy room. I saw her about to fall and tried to help, but my hand was grabbed by Lily, freezing me mid-air. Claire fell straight down, knocking over the incense jar, and the burning red-hot ash fell onto her. Liam heard the crying and rushed over anxiously. From that angle, with the visual distortion, it looked like I had pushed Claire. Lily immediately switched to a different persona and hurried to help Claire. I think I will never forget the look Liam gave me: shock, disappointment, and resentment. He picked up Claire and walked out. Passing by me, he said, "I never thought you could be so cruel to a child. I'm so disappointed in you." I was left alone in the house. Evelyn happened to come in and handed me the DNA report. I knew Evelyn knew everything. I didn't blame her for not telling me. After all, in such a close-knit group, telling me would only make things harder for her and her family. She was willing to help me secretly get the DNA tested without anyone else knowing, and I was already very touched. The moment I opened the report, although I had suspected it all along, I still couldn't hold back my tears. 99.98%, confirmed as biological father and daughter. I packed my things, placed the report in the most visible spot, and left. On the way, I called my assistant. "Ms. Eleanor, just as you suspected, but luckily we prepared in advance. The other party probably hasn't found out yet." A chill ran through me. Liam called, and his first words were accusatory: "Where have you been? Claire is so badly hurt, and you don't even come to see her?" I didn't want to waste words. I heard the chaos of crying and shouting on the other end, and Lily's soft breathing as she clung to Liam. I could understand her feelings as a mother, but I couldn't understand how she could push her own biological daughter into the fire just to shift the blame onto me. My mom just said one thing, asking Lily to have a baby for me. Was it really necessary for you to get so angry? If you're capable, then have a baby for me yourself. Didn't you insist on going out to work last time? Otherwise, our child would already be a month old. They say when you're breaking down, it's easiest to see a person's true colors. That saying really holds true. After coming home, I lit a cigarette and sat on the windowsill. Liam had come back too. He probably saw the report I left behind. Congratulations on becoming a father. He was hit where it hurt, his face darkened. It was a misunderstanding, I didn't expect her to. After he spoke, I fell silent. Then with a thud, he dropped to his knees. "Wife, I was wrong, forgive me. I thought she had an abortion, I didn't expect she kept the baby. You know I love children, but our child is gone, and I'm heartbroken." Then she told me she didn't abort the baby. I listened to the sound of the wind. "For the sake of our marriage, tell me everything. Don't lie to me." Liam recalled with tears streaming down his face. He and Lily were childhood sweethearts, quickly growing close and secretly crossing the line, resulting in her pregnancy. But at that time, Liam went to university and started a relationship with me, leaving Lily with nothing but a cold, "handle it yourself," and walking away. Lily began working away from home and gave birth to the child, holding on to the hope that Liam would return after graduation and give them a family. Instead, all she got was the news of our engagement. Consumed by jealousy, she went to Liam's mother, tearfully pouring out her sorrows. In the end, Liam's mother softened and did everything she could to keep Lily close to Liam. I said, "No wonder the villagers hated me so much." It turned out I had taken Lily's place. When it came down to it, I was the other woman. Liam kept banging his head on the ground, begging me to forgive him. I also wanted to see how far he could go. Without making a move, he stayed on, playing the role of a competent husband every day. I knew his heart was no longer here. Lily hadn't come back either, and she hadn't been streaming these past few days. Since I found out Claire was his biological daughter, he stopped hiding it. He even told me to treat Claire as if she were my own daughter. A few days later, my mother-in-law, completely giving up, sent Claire to live with me. My emotions had been stable these past couple of days, I hadn't lost my temper, and there was no sign of anything unusual. So my mother-in-law basically gave me an ultimatum: either raise this girl named Claire, or have Lily give me another son. Since Claire arrived, she's been eating and living with Liam every day. And I smashed the rocking chair in my room. When I went on a business trip for 4 or 5 days, only Liam and Claire were left at home. They found new ways every day to make me happy, even gesturing at the monitor for me. I installed a tracker on the car. Wherever he goes, I can see it clearly. He doesn't know that I never actually left this place. I opened my phone. Coincidentally, Lily also sent a video, saying she was going to meet the top-ranked player. At the entrance of a high-end community, Lily was waiting ahead for Liam and Claire. That house was bought by me a long time ago, but I never took care of it. Of all the properties under my name, this one is the most inconspicuous. Maybe Liam thought I had forgotten about it. I found it amusing and turned on the camera. The camera clearly showed a panoramic view of the house. I clearly remember that this house hadn't been renovated yet, but in the video, it looked completely finished. A photo of a family of 3 hung on the wall. Lily changed into a new set of pajamas and affectionately wrapped her arms around Liam. "I've been waiting for you so long, when are you going to marry me?" Liam smiled in response, "Soon, very soon, our family of 3 will be reunited." I curled my lips, filled with hatred, but still rationally called the police. "Officer, I'm reporting someone for bigamy." As I expected, Liam was quickly proven guilty of this crime. But I still pretended to know nothing. Liam dismissed his suspicions about me. "Maybe it's just a colleague." "Forget it, come help me testify so I can get bail." After saying that, I truly went on a trip for a whole week. Liam was released from prison, looking shabby. "Honey, I'm heading out, going to the office first." After starting the car, I also turned on the camera. I lost count of how many days and nights Liam spent in this house, the whole family reunited. But I would make him pay the most painful price. Liam came back listlessly. "Was it really necessary for you to be so ruthless?" He was fired from his job, and from then on, that stain followed him at work, basically cutting him off from any good opportunities. I chuckled softly. Without a word, he smashed the tea set in front of me. "What I hate most is your high and mighty attitude. If it weren't for your parents supporting me back then, I would have married Lily long ago. We're married, after all. I never thought you could be so cruel." "Cruel?" I looked at the man who usually spoke softly and gently, but now his face was twisted in accusation, and suddenly I began to doubt whether I had loved the wrong person. Or rather, maybe it was just an act he put on. "Cruel? Liam, if I hadn't found out, I'd be the one walking away with nothing right now. Ever since we were at Liam's family home, I locked myself in the room and went through all the assets under our names. I discovered that he had been transferring my assets for the past 3 years. And 3 years ago was when Claire was born. Evelyn couldn't find a job after graduating from college, so I arranged for her to take a position in the company that was easy and well paid. The kid was sharp and told me everything. Lily did have an abortion back then. But 3 years ago, she came to see Liam and they got back together. So, 3 years ago, Liam cheated. After all those years sharing a bed, I never imagined I was being undermined by the person lying next to me. He was speechless, and he knew I knew everything. "Divorce, but you have to give me a car and a house." I found it funny, almost laughed out loud. Liam, let me tell you, as the one at fault, walking away with nothing is the best outcome for you. I didn't make you pay compensation, which is already giving you face. I'm telling you, you won't take a single stitch or thread from me. He clearly understood too, clenching his teeth in silence. Liam and I divorced smoothly. He was capable, he even secretly kept a car and a house, transferring them to Lily ahead of time. 7 years as lovers, and in the end, I got nothing. Instead, I ended up enabling someone else. My body needed care as well. I went abroad and spent the most expensive treatments to restore my health. On the day I returned, Lily sent me a wedding invitation, inviting me to their wedding. I knew she wanted to disgust me. But with my health restored, my vitality returned, and I was radiant. I also found my second spring. It was an old classmate of mine who introduced Liam to the job. Feeling like I had caused trouble, I thought about going to apologize. Instead, my old classmate suddenly confessed their true feelings to me. David is still unmarried, handsome and wealthy, but after an unhappy marriage, I no longer dared to casually get involved in a relationship. He pursued me relentlessly and slowly broke down my defenses. After Liam got married, he and Lily struggled to conceive. The ex-mother-in-law found it strange and consulted a Taoist priest, who said I was bringing bad luck to them. It had been a year since the divorce, yet my ex-mother-in-law still came knocking. Stay away from our Liam, why can't you just disappear? She sat on my sofa, looking every bit like the lady of the house. You useless old hen, divorced and still causing trouble for Liam. We were already divorced, and I never expected to still be entangled with this family. You should take your son to see a doctor. Before I could finish, my ex-mother-in-law received a call and immediately lit up with joy. I vaguely heard that Lily was pregnant. Before leaving, she spat, "Pfft, you're the one who's sick." Talking about this ex-mother-in-law is really quite amusing. When Liam and I got married, she pretended to be magnanimous, refusing to live with us no matter what. Yet, in the dead of night, she would call Liam, saying how envious she was of our little villa. She just wanted me to build her a small Western-style house in the countryside. At the time, I thought it was unnecessary since she lived alone. Now that I think about it, maybe that's the real reason she resented me. Lily was still live streaming. Every day she recorded how much of the little house had been built, how far along it was. Her belly was growing bigger day by day. Evelyn told me all this. She was bored every day and cutely shared these tidbits of gossip with me. I married David. To announce it to the world, David actually bought a billboard and put up our wedding photo on it. I marveled at how crazy he was. The coincidence was that the company had a tourism project right in the area where my ex-husband lived. Reluctantly, I went there again. The difference was, this time the villagers no longer mocked me but respectfully called me Director Eleanor. Because if this project landed with any family, it wouldn't just bring great wealth, it would also be a considerable sum of money. Liam's house was in chaos every day. I didn't even need to ask around, people came specifically to tell me. Lily had given birth, and it was a boy. The sad part was, the boy didn't look like Liam in the slightest. Liam's mother found it strange and had a DNA test done, only to discover there was no blood relation. But the small villa was built by Lily, and the property was in her hands. After Liam resigned, he wanted to find a job as prestigious and easy as his previous one, but when people saw his resume, they considered him a risk, and no company was willing to take him in. Since learning the child wasn't his, he sank into a life of drunken despair, drinking to get by. In a moment of carelessness, he accidentally injured the newborn boy, damaging his eardrum, possibly leaving him deaf for life. Lily was also a shrewd woman. Realizing the situation she was in, she packed her bags and ran off with the child. But her live stream involved explicit content and was banned across the entire internet. In the end, she came back with the child. They pushed through the crowd and came straight up to me. "Eleanor, I heard you still aren't married." I stood with my hands behind my back and smiled faintly. I already have a child. The two were momentarily stunned. Liam stood behind me, watching silently, long past the spiritedness he once had. After the crowd dispersed, Liam approached me alone. Seeing me end up like this, are you happy? I shook my head. We have nothing to do with each other anymore. Can you finalize this project at my place? Just think of it as for our unborn child. I slapped him across the face. Don't bring up that child with me. He was stunned and simply shut up. He wasn't the same as before. Before leaving, I told him, find a good agency and get a re-examination. In the end, the project wasn't finalized in their village. After I got back, Evelyn told me with a gossiping look. Liam, after hearing what I said, went to find another agency. In the end, the test result was 99.98%, confirming the father-son relationship.